same age today and kind of ruined her life.
Even though Jackie went through the interview process with us and saw all the applications.
Jackie was fully born in 2002, and I was like, yeah, back in middle school in the 2000s. She was like, you were in middle school in the 2000s. I'm like, yeah, I was.
That is such a Jackie moment. Anyways, hello, internet, and welcome to the jury roundtable for Distortion Survivor Thrilltopia. We are here with three of the seven potential, well, not potential, I don't know why I said that. Three of the seven jurors of Distortion Survivor Thrilltopia. Also, shout out to Timmy and Timmy's husband, Minor, or fiance, um, for
Where did the
helping
ages
us.
go?
Where did the ages go?
Yeah,
Anyways, not
remember
the.
the name, but I'll add him back.
Anyways, I'm not explaining this context for anyone. Um, we have Timmy and Minor helping us with this jury roundtable. Thank you so much. And yeah, with that, I'm gonna shut up and Timmy's gonna take over.
Yes.
I almost put Miner's age as 3 instead of 30. Um, and that's how we're introducing ourselves now. But hello, jury. Just want
More of
to
a triangle
to
table.
Seb for a second. Don't say potential jurors. This is not a wheel situation. They're all going to vote. You will all vote as part of this jury. Um, so for this roundtable, we came up with an agenda for, like a standard meeting agenda. Um, just to organize everyone's thoughts. If y'all deviate from that, it's all good. It is okay. This is your roundtable for discussion. This is just, I made this that way we can move back to things and that nothing possibly gets lost. But the first thing we have on there is just any initial thoughts before really diving into everything that anyone just might want to get off their chest. I don't know. But now's a good time for that.
Like,
If
we know who's going to win the game, right? Like,
Yeah,
why are
it's
we
just
here?
Oh, then I
yeah,
can't wait for this.
See,
yeah.
the thing, like, I
It's
understand the concept of a jury roundtable. Like, I've been here before, but like, normally there's some discussion. And like, even if there is going to, I'm not saying that there's necessarily going to be a zero vote finalist because I don't know what everybody's doing. But like,
there won't be
as
there won't be
someone
zero
who
votes then.
has been a zero vote finalist, like, sometimes you just know. I don't know. What are your
Yeah,
If you want to
questions?
keep
I
it,
don't
if
want
you
to
want to keep
ruin
it
your.
interesting,
yeah.
I'll play devil's advocate all
I,
night.
I I knew, but I said to this at the start of round three when I had my first call with B that to them and to William that they were going to win this season. I was like, I was convinced, and it looks like we may be right. We'll see.
I'm gonna just add something that was separate into the chat, which said specifying the final two will be able to go back and see this. Um, but also, if you keep it all about their game, spill the tea. But first, I want to go into just each player's strengths, and let me just also, because I never explicitly said it, that the final two, I mean, you guys know it, but for the stream, just for fun, is B and Marvin. Um, so let's talk about each of their strengths, and let's start with their physical games first. Um, let's start with B.
He's won the last two challenges.
He was also physically there at things.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
But B's won the last two challenges. Marvin hasn't won anything as far as I'm aware, apart from his round in the puzzle pre-match
Yeah, I was about to
challenge.
say, like, the only other things to call out for the physical games were all of the like one-on-one stuff, and I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure both
Marvin
and
won. I
B
think
won
either he
there.
both.
Yeah, Marvin
both,
beat me at
both
tic tac toe. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck Marvin.
um,
We hate him. Just kidding.
yeah,
No, I don't. That's like, Marvin, if you're seeing this, I think you're great. That was super sarcastic.
no. In a physical game wise, yeah. B won the last two comps when potentially, well, I thought at that point B could have been in danger at five, but um, at four
You
even. Sorry,
think? You think?
at four even.
Oh man,
But
never mind.
yeah, no, yeah, B won when she needed to.
Yep.
So
Don't
then,
really disagree with
how
those.
about? Oh wait, sorry. Pretty good. Okay. So how about strengths to Marvin's physical game?
He won tic-tac-toe.
Okay.
tic-tac-toe.
Okay, then how about their social games? We can weave between both of them, but for right now, just try to stay on strengths. Because we will get to weaknesses also. Don't you worry.
They both
B was
played.
there.
Shot every time Al says B was there. Um, um, B had a very strong social game. This is why I thought that she would win from the start, because from the get go, she was asking all the right questions. She was so personable. She was just so magnetic as a personality that I was automatically drawn to her, even though she was on the side that I wasn't on. Yeah, she made the connection she needed to. She was, after the first round of merge, she lost her closest ally, but then went to work and made the connection with other people, me included, to make sure that she was secure in rounds to come. She has played a really, really good social game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree on that. B is someone who not only was really good at reaching out to people and making relationships, but also like repairing relationships with people that like either with minor trust breaks or like fully voting against someone. She did a very good job of rebuilding those relationships. One of the examples being mine. There were multiple times where she went against what would have been our collective interests in terms of an alliance or my personal interests. And she was very convincing in trying to get me back and being like, hey, I'm so sorry that this happened. I think we were just too distracted or too stubborn in our own ways, and then pulled me back in. So I think that even more so than just making connections, being able to maintain ones, especially ones of people who possibly shouldn't be trusting her, I think is impressive.
And then how about strengths to Marvin's social game?
Marvin was very good at getting people on his side in a very short amount of time. Because yes, he did have a awkward scenario with his time zone difference, but there are multiple instances where either other people would be strategizing away or socializing away while he was sleeping or vice versa, and you would only nab maybe 1 2 hours intermittent being able to speak with him, and within that time he made very good job of the few messages he was able to get across to get people to believe in where he was going and trust in him and want to make a connection with him.
I agree. I think Marvin played a very, very good pre-match game. I think he was around a lot more then, because at one point, everyone on the Skyfall I was hearing was like, we're really, really close with him, and felt really good about him from what I was hearing from other people. And those relationships that he cultivated in the pre-merge ensured that when it came to merge, and he wasn't around as much because he had his birthday, which meant he was away for a long time. His work schedule was a bit crazy, and then he wasn't very well. And he had things going on, which meant and time zone as well, which meant he wasn't around as much. It meant that he could wake up 10 minutes before tribal, and then he could be told by
Just not
B.
at all.
Yeah, once, and then be told by B, this is the vote, and do it. So B would put the work in, but then because of the connections that Marvin made and the trust that he built with B, he could be told what the right vote was and do it in a very short amount of time.
And here's the thing, and I doubt she's gonna say the truth, because the truth, I think, makes her game look worse. I think because B, from the beginning of the merge, said she didn't want to vote out Marvin. And I think that definitely started off as just a loyalty alliance thing. I think towards the end, it became a who am I going to beat thing. But like, I think for the most part, it was Marvin being able to convince B to be loyal to him, and that he didn't really need to put in much work because B was kind of a linchpin in a lot of votes. And as long as B kind of put her foot down and was like, I'm not going to vote for Marvin, Marvin didn't get the votes. So I think Marvin definitely was able to, I don't want to say manipulate, but like influence B enough to get her to do the work to keep him in the game until it became a, I don't want to say goat situation, but like I don't think he stays this long in the game if it's not for B.
I think the big difference between their two social games is B was someone who invested a lot of capital in a like wide breadth of people, but Marvin put his social capital and his social strength into a very selective group of people. And I think that
Mhm.
made people want to keep him around more. I think it made people want to um, go after bigger fish to fry and situations like that. I think it may not be a level of depth of a of issue between them, but rather a selective scope. So B was very much going and socially connecting with everybody, but also everybody realized that versus Marvin, who was socially connecting with very selective people, but those selective people felt incredible amounts of trust to Marvin because of that.
Yeah, I think that goes back to his pre-merge game where he put so much effort in there, and because he had such a good trust with B and the others that he was select with, he was always well informed, which was good. Um, I enjoyed playing a lot of the game with Marvin. Marvin wasn't around too much, but when we did call, we were always on a similar wavelength and stuff. And yeah, it was. I enjoyed playing with him. I enjoyed playing with them both.
Okay, so it seems we're going to move on to strategic game, which I know a lot of times can morph with social at the same time. So some of it you might have already discussed, but if there's any more, and again with strengths, we'll start with B, then we'll move into Marvin as well. So who wants to start us off with that?
This is the one that I'm unsure about for both. I know part of the strategy for B was to never close any doors. Always make sure that even if trust is broken, um, the door was always open to potentially work, and that got B and Marvin a lot further. For example, if she hadn't have been that way with me following the Rachel vote off, there's a good chance B or Martin potentially could have got up during the HOH of the live night, but because B had done such a good job of not closing the door with me and keeping the relationship open, that wasn't the case, and that ensured that we could build something to go over the next couple of rounds.
I think that B did a very good job of sort of I don't know if smoke and mirrors is the right word, but was good enough at directing people towards there always being larger targets to go after than herself. Like I think people knew that B was going to be a potential jury threat. I think people knew that B was someone who had a lot of useful social capital, but especially in the mid merge, like from Final 8 to Final 6, everybody had much bigger targets that they were much more afraid of, that they had much less trust in. And I think B did a very good job of not only keeping the heat off of herself, but also directing people towards those bigger targets and then lead into what I think the end game was particularly really strong for her of building out a scenario where it was in other people's best interests to try to keep her around. And I think that it was sort of narrowing down people's options in the mid merge and then locking people in, like myself and Sam, in sort of that late end game where it felt like we didn't really have any options to go for except for what was left. That's my
How'd that work
perspective, at
out for
least.
you, Chris?
I don't regret the way I did most of this, to be honest, because this isn't to defend my game, but Al, if I take out Marvin at Final Four and B still wins immunity, I go out. Or if I take out Marvin at Final Five, B wins immunity, I go out at 4.
He would have taken you over me, Chris.
It doesn't matter. It still goes to a tie versus this one where I pretty much guaranteed got Final 3 with
It
it.
would have gone to it wouldn't have gone to a tie.
Final 4 would have been 2-2.
Marvin keeps Sam?
Marvin's gone. Marvin's gone at 5. That's not about my game.
Yeah.
Point I'm making. I think B did a good job of keeping the heat off of her until it was basically too late for anybody to really do anything
But
against
did
him.
she do that, or did we do that for her?
I think we can discuss in weaknesses because I agree with you, Al.
Because I don't think she. I know this is the strengths at the moment, but like I don't know if that counts as a strength because I think decisions were made that were like we can get B later, and then that
I think
just
you're
didn't work out.
100% right, but I do, whether it was intentional or not intentional, it was something that I think helped her game tremendously.
Oh, it definitely helped her game. I just don't know if that's one of her strengths.
Right.
I think
agree.
the fact that she put so much stock into the relationships and put so much effort into relationships, that's why lots of people want to keep her around. I think if she hadn't put the effort in, if she hadn't put the effort in, I wouldn't have wanted to keep her around. I would have been happy for her to go way before. If she hadn't put any effort with me, if she'd have been super pissed at me after the Rachel thing, I would have put her up at the live night and gone to get her home. The fact that she put the effort in meant, and she actually, like I said before, built that relationship and built that trust with me. Even though I'd got her closest ally out of the game, or we had got her closest ally out of the game, it meant that she was in a good place moving forward. And then it was too late to go out because she won at the right times, which is a testament to how she played this game, I think.
Do we want to move to Marvin then for this?
Yeah, we can move on to Marvin's strengths for strategic game.
The thing is, I can see
people.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's like I feel like I understand the moves Marvin made, but I don't necessarily know his motivations or goals while doing them, just because I rarely had time to be able to talk about like after a vote something happened.
I think part of it is the fact that like Sam and I never were on a tribe like before the merge, a tribe with Marvin that really had to be strategic. Because there was never like Sam, I don't think y'all went to tribal during the swap.
No, we had discussed the vote. We had a plan in place if we did go to tribal, but yes, we had never actually went.
So like, and I think once the merge happened, I think Marvin. I'm sure there was some strategy. It never involved me. So yeah, I didn't ever see his strategic part.
I think that's another thing is that like this goes for both of them, and this is once again more weaknesses, but like I feel like they kind of locked into a sort of stubborn strategy that was very much one-minded. And the thing is that it's like I've talked with B about those strategies, and it was clear that Marvin was locked in with B. They voted together at the final 9, even though my understanding was that Marvin was originally going to be voting for Sam. There's also the moment where as I understand it, at least, Marvin was the one that was pushing for the intentional tie during live night.
Yeah, that was me. Marvin is the one who brought that idea up.
It's because I said to Marvin before that I wanted it to be a tie so X and Eric home.
Okay.
Because I'd already promised you, Chris, that I wanted you to stay. So I did everything I could to. I didn't think because I thought Julia was definitely voting you, Chris.
And everybody who, like Julia, Marvin, and I, the 3 people who like were in that conversation about the tie, I assume Marvin spoke to B in the 1.2 seconds that happened between like when we left the breakout room to like when breakout rooms were closed to vote for you, Chris. But like all of us knew in the moment when we were saying to make it a tie that Eric was going to be the one who left.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess I didn't know where that came from, but I was I'm trying to recall like specific things that I'm just like I know, or at least know it was coming from Marvin in a specific direction, because other times it was either strategy that I've talked about with people prior and then talked to Marvin about, or like I know specifically B was someone who talked to Marvin for
Yeah.
And thank you
I
for
th-
bringing that up because I would have completely forgotten about that. But yeah, Marvin, like right before we went to the breakout rooms, was like, Al, Julia, can I talk to you? And we were like, yep.
The,
And
the
we
thing
that.
is that I don't know the same issue I'm having though is I don't understand necessarily his motivations for doing those things.
Well, to be honest, I was convinced, Al, that you and Julia were going to vote Chris out based on Julia's big speech about Chris. I thought you two were going to vote together. So I had already
we did
spoken
vote
to
together. We just voted the
the
other
other way.
way.
But I'd already spoken to Marvin and B before you guys joined the room. I was like, I need you both to vote Eric out because I want it to be a tie so that I can send Eric home. And then Marvin then asked to speak to you guys, and then that will happen. But I don't know. Yeah, but it was definitely brought up in the three between Marvin, B, and I before you guys joined the room, and then it went from there. But it was, yeah, well, I'm not mad with how it happened.
The weaknesses in Marvin's strategic game, I think, are easier to find, and I do think there are strengths to them. To his strategic game. It's hard to just like look at it like from the outside view or even right next to him and being able to tell specifically what his motivations and goals were. I think that's the one thing he is going to have to properly explain at Final Tribal is why he went through with certain moves or like what led him to making certain decisions, because I think that's just a big question mark.
As somebody who, like I mentioned earlier, I got to tribal and was a zero vote finalist, I knew I was going to be a zero vote finalist. Like that was something that I knew was going to happen. It was my first ever game. All I wanted was to get to the end. And there was a draft last night for a game I'm in a VL for, but I was in that game last season. And today I decided to watch the draft for last season, and Marvin was in that game. And one thing that like several people said was that Marvin's game is good for longevity, but it's not a winning game almost ever. Like he has won games before, but for the most part, he's there for a long time, but he doesn't play to win because he plays like multiple games at a time for them, like usually. So
Gotcha.
I think that he got to the end, which was his goal. I don't think his goal was to necessarily win.
Yeah, for strategy, I do wonder how much was him purposely sort of playing up this goat mentality towards the end game when it was obvious that it was going to be a final two, um, to open up more options for him to not necessarily have to win because
I
of his
don't. I
physical
don't think it
game.
was. I think timing just was against him. He was really unwell for about 2 3 days, which meant he was AWOL from the game. He had his birthday weekend, which meant he was AWOL from the game, and then he had work things and scheduling things, which meant he was AWOL from the game. That wasn't a planned thing, and that was just real life things. But the work he put in before meant he was in a better position than he would have been if it was anyone else.
And I think unfortunately for this roundtable, like the people who might have seen his game aren't here. Like if B was here right now, and I understand
Or
that B is
Rachel
still in
too.
game. Yeah, like if B was on the jury, I think she would be able to
I think
easily
you're right.
tell us what he did. I just don't know what he did. And I think that's a problem, like a weakness in Marvin's game, that he could have gone to the end as a GOAT figure, but like if he had his closest ally on the jury, then she could have talked about all the great things about his game that we didn't get to see because we weren't his closest ally.
Yeah, I see that. I was working closely with him for a bit. As soon as the HOH live night thing happened, Marv and I had a three made with called Destiny's Child. That was fun.
Who was
I was
Beyonce?
Michelle.
Mm.
B was Beyonce.
Oh, yeah, of course. B. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Marvin was Kelly, and I was Michelle, obviously.
Obviously.
Obviously, I was the other one. I was the one that left. But and that was more that was made in the breakout room. That was discussed in the breakout rooms before the final vote and stuff. And Marvin was, well, they both were very much big on having that happen and having a bit of security there. And I'd already got against them, so they could have just not done that. But the fact they were all very much receptive to that and stuff shows that they played a game with a very open mind, which I think is good for both their strategy games. I'm intrigued to see what they did that were different, because I know a lot of what B did, and the fact that Marvin was just told the vote at the end. But I want to know what strategic moves did Marvin make that was independent of B, that had nothing to do with B.
Yes, I 100% agree. I think that's
Because B definitely did
specifically
things
us.
without Marvin. And
1,000%, 1,000%. I can't say the same, and I want to give them both a fair shot. I really want Marvin to come and surprise everyone and be like, I was this mastermind. I did this, 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 and this, and this.
I'd love that. I know like what I've said makes it sound like my vote is 100% like decided. If Marvin is able to tell me what he's done in the game and it's impressive, great. If he's been behind things that I didn't know about, great. Love to hear it. Can't wait. I just, with my experience in this game, didn't see that. And like I said, part of it is the fact that I never once strategized with him. He and I were just never on the same wavelength in this game. And that's fine. Like, I don't need to be on the same wavelength as everybody in the game. That's just not how the game works. But like, in terms of being a person who decides who wins the game, I have more of a sense of B's game than I do of Marvin's game, like significantly so. And even then, I don't have a great grasp of B's game because I think that she wasn't necessarily telling me the truth the whole time, which is fine. Again, I know we weren't like that. I understand the game. It's difficult when the two people who are at the end are two people that you didn't really get to see play the game that much. Or you saw them play, but you don't really know what they were doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to weaknesses? I don't know what Timmy has planned.
Oh, we weren't there yet? I'm sorry.
I think we just personally took
I
control
think you
and moved
guys
it towards
went there, which
weaknesses.
is fine. I'm gonna let Miner speak though. It's his time to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, because you guys got, if there's any other weaknesses for strategic, because I think that's where you guys somewhat touched upon. Or
I mean, I definitely have both strategic for both B and Marvin that I've been quiet on.
And yeah, let's start with strategic when it comes to weaknesses.
So, first off, Marvin not being around at certain points was very insanely detrimental to his game. Like, the best example I can give is Final Five. Final Five, we did not have contact. Me and B did not have contact with him when we were trying to get the vote onto you, Al. And we're like, if we don't get him on this vote and he self votes, then he goes home 3-2.
Oh, what a bummer for him.
So
He wouldn't have gone home. He would have idled him.
I realize that, but then that's still a weakness to Marvin's game. If he's not paying attention to that round, he could have completely gone home without actually having anything prepped. It was the point where me and B were like,
did Marvin not know B had an idol?
I don't know. I did not know B had an idol. I would,
but you're not
likely
Marvin.
I realize that.
I don't want to be like you're Chris. You're like
this is something I need to get more information from B at Final Tribal of if the level of trust that B showed me with our final two, if that was the same kind of idea that she had with Marvin. I don't know. Maybe she was more open with Marvin and less open with me. That's something to go across. But I would honestly go with the fact of if B wasn't even telling me she had an idol at like before the final five vote even happened, I highly doubt that she also told Marvin about it. That's my impression, at least. I could be very off base with that, but I think B would have kept that completely secret up until that point.
B didn't tell anyone. B didn't tell anyone at all. I'm almost sure of that from the conversation we had afterwards, which I think is smart.
Oh, Oh, it's
'Cause B-
definitely smart, and why I didn't trust that Julia didn't have an idol.
Mm-hmm.
Still haven't gotten over that whole exit speech, but I mean, I'm over it. Like, I just haven't spoken about it.
So
Um,
I think that was an issue with Marvin's game, and then what I'm going to say for B's strategic game was that maybe it was just because of the perspective of which she was talking with me. She was incredibly, incredibly stubborn for most of the merge of we need a Skyfall person to win. That was very much the mentality that she pushed on me and was very stubborn about, even when I mentioned possibilities of, and this might not be the greatest move for you and me collectively. This might not be a move we can universally get people to agree on. It was very that was both the motivation she gave me and what she was largely pushing for the entire game.
hate that. I
If
hate
that
it.
was for a specific strategic purpose of like knowing that she could win any combination if it was Skyfall at the end, but she was pushing this at Final 9 and at Final 8 when there were still 4 Skyfall people left. It wasn't like set in stone that like if all Skyfall was at the end, it would be me, Marvin, and herself, which put her in a very good position.
I mean, to be honest, at Final Nine, B saying B thinking that she could beat any Skyfall was kind of out there.
Right.
After Final Nine, she's not necessarily wrong. Um, I
Right,
think
but
between you and B, you would have my vote after what happened at Final Nine. But
mhm.
I don't think you have the vote of other people.
Yeah.
Eric definitely lost the ability to win after Final Nine.
Right. I more so meant the like possibility of making it to Final 2. Like if Final 4 was all that the last 4 remaining Skyfall, I don't necessarily know if that's a winning combination to get B to Final 2 anymore. That was more so what I was meaning, rather
Yeah.
than like she has
Oh,
the
in
possibility to
terms of
beat,
who you guys decide to vote out.
right,
Or
rather than an actual situation of reaching the end.
I don't know if I fully believe that B was as Skyfall, gung ho Skyfall as she was telling you, and that might be something you want to ask because I'm interested to find that out because from our conversations she seemed a lot more open, and she might have
well,
just
you
been
weren't an original Skyfall, so she wasn't going to tell you that an original Skyfall had to win.
true, but her reasonings and the things she was saying, it added up. I don't know. I mean, I'll be interested to see, but because
I
she's
agree
very,
with you, Sam, but it's also the situation of at any opportunity she could have be voted for a teacup every single time. So maybe the evidence is just skewed in that favor, but it does give me more, I think, give more credence to the idea that she did want to stay Skyfall strong. And then one other
she
thing
didn't pre-merge. She voted you.
yes, I realized that, but
only when did she vote you before the swap?
no,
So it was just when you were
no
on
one other
teacup.
than Corey got votes on Skyfall pre-swap.
So it was just when you were on teacup.
Correct. Also, one more thing I want to bring up for weaknesses specifically for Marvin, and I think this also plays into a strength specifically for B, was Marvin's name was constantly the one that was thrown around as either the misdirection vote or the backup vote in case an idol got played. Almost universally. In fact, I'm frankly shocked that I wasn't called out more often for how many times I pushed specifically Marvin's name as the vote because I pushed him as the alternate vote at Final 9.
Which
I
is why
pushed him,
we voted for Rachel.
it was the fake out name I gave you and William at 8. It was the fake plan that Julia thought that I was gung ho for at Final 6. It was the name that was pushed for at Final 5. And Sam, if I didn't tell you the truth, it likely would have been you and me voting Marvin at 4. Marvin's name was constantly, constantly being thrown out. And some of that I think comes from people felt good with B, and if they wanted to break up that duo, that Marvin was the one that people was like the big question mark for. They're like, I could still work with B. If B goes, I don't know if I can work with Marvin. And I think that was just constantly, constantly, constantly. And if B didn't have the idol and someone played an idol in any of those instances where he was the backup vote, he was in basically at any point the main target had an idol, Marvin would have been in deep crap.
You bring me something up which is a strength, so I know we're reverting back. But Marv and I've got a history, as I've said to all of you in previous games and whatnot, and but Marv made a real effort to show me that we could build trust, even as far back as when we went to the island together, and we were like, "This is a way of us showing trust." And from then on, we communicated a lot in the pre-merge. I when Julia brought up Marvin being the vote at 9 instead of Rachel, I flat out refused because of the relationship we had built and the trust I'd built with him in the game, which is a testament to Marvin's game, the fact that he had built such good trust with me, and I also refused when.
But was that trust built up in this game, or was it because you felt bad about what happened in a previous game? Because that's what you told me. No, it was past 9. It was like 7 or 6 that you told me.
Initially, it was because I felt bad, but then I felt good that he was looking out for me because we had a chat, a conversation. I think it was Final 9, where we said that we're both going to be on both sides and look out for each other. I initiated this conversation, but where we look at each other, and any time we heard the other person's name, we would come back and see if we can do something about it. That never actually, I didn't. Yeah, that didn't actually come to play until Final 5, and at that point, I wanted it to go. but we had a conversation where we were going to both be on each other's initial tribes and try and let each other know what was going on, and we did to an extent.
Okay, so any more weaknesses regarding, and you kind of touched upon both of them at the same time, which is absolutely fine, kind of works. So is there any more to say about weaknesses regarding social game? Because I know that was also touched upon during that same thing, because a lot of times, like I said earlier, they do go in hand.
Marvin went for days without communication, and I know he had things going on, but we all have things going on, and it's just at least check in with people.
I don't, but it's fine.
You've been doing your art stuff. You've been really busy.
I have my brain, which keeps me occupied, fighting my demons.
Yeah, I mean, I think Marvin's social shortcomings, I think, are very obvious, and I think that's also the biggest hurdle that he has coming into this is because he wasn't socializing with, frankly, a majority of this jury. He did socialize with some people, but like specifically
jury
on jury
management garbage.
Not a lot. And he's going to have to fight really hard to show that either he didn't have to do that, which I think is still a mistake, or show that he had other options available without doing that. But it's far and away his biggest problem was just not being able to communicate, not getting on time, not even just doing normal check-in. Like that's the thing. There were multiple times where I think a lot of people were like, I can't strategize today, but at least like say good morning, say how's your day going, or say that you're busy or something like that. And I get that it's a time zone thing, but it's like I literally had probably 3 days in a row where I was sending messages to Marvin in an attempt to just touch base, know that he was okay as a person and like, you know, alive, or just like, what are your thoughts on this happening? How did you feel about immunity? What have you? And I definitely have one part in the chat where it's one day, no message from Marvin, and sometimes not even a red message. So I think
I didn't speak to Marvin like the 2 rounds before. I mean, I spoke to him. Marvin didn't respond the 2 rounds before I went out. So Final 6 and Final 5.
That's when he was the most. That was specifically was when he was the most inactive. From
that's when he was unwell.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he checked in with B for the first time. Said like, he didn't message any chats, but he checked in with B like 2 minutes before your vote, Al, from what I was told. And that was the first time he was around for like 3-4 days because he was unwell.
But the thing is, just if you think about it, anybody else, like he was unwell. If I was unwell and was inactive for 2 days, we wouldn't be having the same conversation. Literally anybody else in this game, if they were unwell for 2 days and were inactive for 2 days or 2 rounds or whatever, we would not be speaking about it the same way, I feel. In terms of like, oh, it was okay that he was inactive, he was unwell. And I understand it is, in theory, okay to be inactive when you're unwell. I get it. It's happened to me before. I just mean like in a final tribal scenario, talking about the fact that like him being unwell and inactive didn't really put him in danger in the game has to say something. Because me being inactive for 2 days would have put me in, or 2 rounds would have put me in danger in the game. Chris, you being inactive for two rounds would have put you in. Sam, you being inactive for 2 rounds would have put you in danger. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
And Al, I also agree with you because also like, and I still don't think it's justifiable even with the unwell thing because I still think that you can still just send a message saying, I'm not feeling okay and don't want to talk strategy. There were multiple times other people in this game were like, I want to step away from the game today. I don't want to talk about it with anyone. And they just sent one message and that was it. And then people respected their space. The fact that we could go almost 2 full rounds and like some of us still had no idea what if Marvin was feeling unwell or had any understanding of why he couldn't be reached, that's a problem because it means that people can't rely on him for strategy. It means people don't know, have to work around assumptions that he's voting himself. Like it's even with that, I don't like I can understand not being well, I can understand being busy, but I don't think it's impossible to like expect someone in a game situation to just spend 1 minute either in the main tribe chat or going to every single one-on-one and just saying, I'm busy or I'm feeling unwell. Because I did that multiple times. There were some times where I'm like, guys, I will not be active for these amount of hours today. I apologize. If you want to reach me, try to reach me before or after.
Yeah,
Marvin
Julie and I did that the day after Final 9.
Yeah,
that's what I was referring to. And I just, even if you feel sick and you feel unwell and you need to take away from the game, I still don't think it's justifiable to just ghost people until after it's done, because then people have no idea why you're doing it. That's my opinion.
No, back to what you're saying, Al, about the fact that he was still here, even with the fact he wasn't around for 2 rounds. That's testament to the work he put in the pre-merge. In the pre-merge, he made it so he had a really tight trio with Rachel and B, and that was something which helped carry him because B then put in the work to protect both of them, and then she could just say to Marvin, "This is what's happening. This is the vote." And
Well,
then,
no, but after Final 9, Rachel was gone, so that trio doesn't exist anymore.
so it was a duo.
And a duo in a tribe of 6, even 5, doesn't keep you safe. I mean, I understand that 5B had an idol, but like,
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that one of the duo was still around doing all of the work to make sure
but that's a very different situation
but
when
that's
that duo is the final two.
yes.
If it was Marvin and me and it was B was putting in the effort, look at how Marvin made this connection with B and B was able to save him on all of these occasions. That's very different than B and Marvin here. And then he's saying, well, the only reason I'm in the game is because B put in the effort.
Yeah,
that
that's definitely not a plus for Marvin.
Game.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and see the merit.
I appreciate it, but
no, I definitely appreciate because I definitely feel bad being here and being like, I don't understand Marvin's game and I don't understand what he did well because I didn't see it happen. And I very much appreciate you, Sam, being like, no, he did things. And I think, unfortunately for him, being at the end with B is the worst case scenario for him. Out of anything that could have happened after Final 9, him being with B is the worst Final 2 that could have happened for him.
Which that's something I'm very interested in going in because I feel like I had a good understanding of why, like B and Marvin acting as a unit. I feel like I have a good understanding as to why they went the directions they did, but I want more clarity from both of them specifically regarding Final 3 of what would Marvin have done if he won, and then roughly like what was B's like true intentions with Final 2s leading up until then. But I think Marvin, I think it's very important to ask him because when I was already preparing a speech in case he won Final 2, being like, look, everyone sees you as a pair with B. You're not going to win against her. If you take me, you might at least win by bitter jury because people in the jury hate me, you know? So that's something
at least you're
that
self-aware.
So that's something
I don't hate you. I just know that other people were not.
Oh,
your
I
biggest
know.
fans.
I read that jury chat. I'm ready for villain of the season. That's a different talk. But like that's
I
something
didn't
where
say
it's like I
anything
think
about you.
if I need to know if Marvin socially understood where he was positioned in that final three, and if he knew his best chance was actually, or if he realized that being in the final two with B, if he had won that final immunity, was bad for his game, or makes it harder for him to argue for what he did uniquely.
And that question needs to be asked in a way that doesn't necessarily
Agreed.
automatically give the answer away.
Right.
Like,
That's
hey Marvin,
frankly
you
what
know that like
that's
what at the
that's
final
frankly
three.
why I want to ask it, because I want to just be like, okay, Marvin, if you had won the final immunity, who would you take? And just leave it there. And
Yeah.
then let him give the explanation as to why.
I really very much so want to know when Marvin became kind of a goat to be, because I know there was a switch somewhere. I
Mhm.
know for most of the merge, she wanted to keep Marvin around as an ally. At some point in time, it became a goat situation, and I want to know
Mhm.
when that was.
I
Because I
do
feel
too.
like it happened a lot later than it should have.
I agree, because me and B made a final two after that first Thrill Island thing, and because of the way that she was talking to me specifically through the final 5 round, through the final 4 round, I truly believed that B was at least considering taking me to final two and not having it just be an easy
Oh,
win
she
at the
was,
end.
Chris.
Obviously, I might have been played for a fool there. I want to ask B more specifically, like how honest she really was about that final two, or if that was like a last second flip that she did. That's something I specifically want to ask B about, because I want to know, like, she obviously had a final two with Marvin. She had a final two with me. Was it a situation where she always honored the Marvin and B one over me, or was it something where she just wanted to get to a final three where she thought she was going to the end no matter what? That's something I'm curious about, specifically from B's perspective of what you were saying, Al. Did B's intentions switch once it was becoming obvious that Marvin was a goat, or was that always her intention?
I also think B definitely had you in a final two when you would take her. I
Mhm.
don't necessarily think B had you in a final two when she would have to take you.
I looking at it in retrospect, I think that's true.
I can shed a lot of light on B's decision making, because basically, Chris, once you told me that I was one going, B and I got really close as friends throughout the game, and B and I were on call for like 2 hours before the tribal, my tribal, and where she was doing her makeup and everything, and we were just chatting, and we were talking about best options for the next round and stuff, and B said she was on the fence about whether to take you or whether to take Marvin, because we had a very open conversation, because I was going and there was nothing we could do. She was very much on the fence. She didn't know what the best decision was. And I think she was on the fence till she made that decision last night. You could tell she was stressed, and that wasn't acting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she was 1,000% on the fence, because
and that's something that I want to ask her specifically about, was like, obviously, if she specifically had a final two with Marvin and Marvin was considering taking her, like if Marvin answers that he was taking her, was this a situation where B was just hoping she didn't win final immunity because she was like, someone's taking me to the end no matter what? Or did she actually have a game plan in mind going into that? You know?
Because you didn't have a final two with Marvin, did you?
No, we collectively had a three, but I was intending to take B to the end.
I'd love to know about that later. But
sure, but I don't think that's discussion for now.
Yeah, I'm
no,
gonna
I
take
know.
a
That's
moment
why I
to
said
cut
later.
in.
Those two had lots of threes. They looked at me as well.
Oh yeah, that three was made during the Corey vote, because was the entire joke plan behind that was supposed to be that me and B were voting Marvin that round while everyone else was putting their votes on Logan and Chris V, and then me and B were going to Marvin and being like, "Teehee, we're gonna flip this all on Corey," and then that's how that final three, which we called Tilt the World, got formed.
I'm gonna take a moment to cut in just because we are veering further and further away. It's good stuff, and we can get to it, but just to home things back in, it seems like we're done talking about at least weaknesses. Ooh, that's pretty.
Thanks.
We're sorry. We're done talking about
Shiny things,
weaknesses
shiny
in
things.
regards to social and strategic. With did there happen to be any weaknesses in either of them regarding physical game or Is it something you guys
Marvin
have
didn't win
tic-tac-toe?
anything but tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, and we tied for second place in that
Yeah.
thing.
I don't think either of them played particularly strong physical games. B won at the end when she needed to. Marvin didn't win at the end, but was going to be
Also,
taken regardless.
Physical is doing a lot of heavy lifting here
Pardon?
because none of these challenges were particularly physical.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, we had to spin
I mean,
that one
it's-
time, and Chris had a
let's-
big problem with it.
Oh yeah, that was just not good for my health. I don't know why specifically it got under my skin so much, but I mean, I'll be frank, a large part of why because a lot of the challenges ended up being like a ranked situation, it wasn't just, like or semi-live situations where it was like ranking. I felt maybe it was just my impression, but it felt like for pretty much everything up until Final Five, B was consistently towards the bottom placements of,
Mhm.
like bottom
And
of the
then out
pack.
of nowhere, she won 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm. While Marvin, I think, was just always considered someone in the middle of the pack, but not necessarily someone who was like, not someone who was like terrible at challenges, but someone who like was doing pretty much the average on every situation and just needed to get lucky with the right draw.
Well, I mean, the reason B didn't get taken out before she did, like, we knew she had a strong social game. We just weren't worried about
Mhm.
challenge threat with her.
Absolutely.
I'm intrigued to see whether B actually threw challenges because
I don't think so.
My last game I was taken out via throne challenge. This game, I think because it's her first game, I don't think that she
Knows what kind of challenges are coming up.
I mean, none of us did.
Right,
true,
but like
but B is also very, very experienced in reality TV. She works for reality TV. She knows how these things work. She knows how to. She works in casting. She knows how to play the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if she was throwing, and it'll be. I'm intrigued to see whether she and if someone else doesn't ask, I really want to ask that because.
Well, if you work in reality TV, you should know that for the most part, throwing challenges tends to backfire.
Not if you're Dan Giesling.
That's why I said for the most part. You can't you can't
compare
respond
someone to Dan and
for
Dan
the
just-
most part with one person.
and also
I'm
have it be
playing.
Dan.
I'm playing. It's fine. It's the goatee. Ignore me.
Also, this is not a goatee, it's just
I-
a beard and mustache.
It holds my
Any-
secrets.
Up your
Anyways, Timmy and Minor, I don't think there's too much in regards to explicit weaknesses in physical.
Fair enough. So then moving on, and you guys have touched on this a little bit already. What type of questions do you want to ask the final two, and what are those key points that you need to hear from them that will sway your vote, possibly?
I want to know what distinguishes both their games strategically. Couldn't say that word. Yeah. I want to know what Marvin did in particular that B had no idea was happening. Because I don't
necessarily need to know the B part of that.
Yeah, well,
Analysis.
just because those two played so tightly, I know what Marvin did that B didn't know was happening. Whereas I already name a few things that B did that Marvin was told about later on, rather than I'll know what Marvin did that B didn't know about. That's important to me to distinguish their games.
For me, the two questions. What do you need? Okay. So for me, I think that the two things that like because I played very closely with B and then my extension Marvin, I think the two questions I'm most want to ask is B specifically like what her like social totem pole was throughout the game, because we kind of know what her like general goals were, but I'm wondering like was Marvin always the person at the top she wanted to take at final two? Were there other people that were stacked between there? Did things get shifted around? Because I think it's obvious that her social game was trying to figure out was like not in jeopardy at the end, but like she didn't necessarily know exactly what she was going to be doing immediately at the end. So I'm curious about where she ranked everybody throughout the game and if that changed or stayed the same. And now I'm
The
alone.
only name I heard from her in terms of people she would not vote out was Marvin.
Okay.
That was for the entirety of the merge.
And then for Marvin's game, similar to what Sam was saying, but also explicitly, does he know social, or maybe not even socially positioned? Does he know the way that he comes across the jury and how he was positioned, what he would have had to do specifically towards that end game to have a potential at the end, which I think can be very easily answered by just asking him who would he have taken if he won final immunity.
Mhm.
And then Al, I don't know how far you are from your camera, but do you have any questions that you need answered from the final two?
Sorry, I'm like searching for things while also
You are so fine, don't you worry.
what do I need? I need a lot of things, not from them, just in life.
Mood.
I need Marvin to tell me what he did, just in general. And I need B to tell me when keeping Marvin became strategic in a way that wasn't just, this is my ally from pre-merge. Like when it became, this is the person I would like to keep with me to get to the end, because this is the person I beat unquestionably. Again, Marvin, if you're watching this, that was like from B's point of view. That wasn't me saying unquestionably she beats you, because if you have things to say, I'd love to hear them. I just I want to know how. It's hard when like allies make it to the end, because you have to ask, I guess for both of them, it's like Marvin, obviously Marvin wasn't the one who chose who the final two was going to be, but like, was this his optimal final two? What was his optimal final two? How did he set himself up to make it to the final two in a way that isn't B? Just like being friends with B and being friendly with B and being close to B. I need something that tells me about somebody in who's not sitting at final tribal with him. I need to just hear him say something, and jury will either confirm or deny. And by the jury, I mainly mean Rachel. And I don't know. I I don't know what I need to hear at this moment. I'll know when I hear it, if I hear it.
Okay.
I think Marvin has to come up with something very good to convince me that he has actually played this game. And B needs to convince me that things she did were strategic and not just convenient.
Okay, perfect. And then just one final thing. If anyone has any closing thoughts regarding just anything discussed, in regards to the roundtable in the final two, anything that you want to circle back to for a minute at all, now's the time to do so.
I'm excited to see how it plays out. I think this has been.
I'm excited to see if there's any surprises. Because I don't know if there will be any surprises. I'm excited to see so excited to see what they haven't, what I don't know about their game. And I'm sure there'll be things, but I'm excited to find that out.
I'm excited to see everybody's beautiful faces again, and for all of us to celebrate after whoever wins.
Perfect.
I want there
Well,
to be a fight.
oh,
The duality of man.
Is,
I want
is
people.
I'm assuming
Why
I'm
is
assuming
this
Julie's been there.
sparkly?
Uh-oh.
The
Whatever.
fight is between Al and Sparkles.
I just
Best,
I
best
thought this was
rivalry of the
black paint.
season.
I thought this was
Um,
black paint, and it's not.
um,
It's metallic black paint.
I'm really sorry. I had to step away when you guys were saying all your questions. So just so I don't step on any toes, can you summarize what you want? What you're going to ask?
Would Marvin
Um,
have taken B who would Marvin have taken in a final three? And what was B's like social totem pole throughout the game? And did that shift
Okay,
or
cool.
or I
I
guess
just
her
wanna step on everyone's
loyalty
toes.
totem pole? That was my question. Al.
I don't know.
Cool.
I kind of was talking out of my ass because I don't know what I need to hear from them, really. I will know when I hear it. I just am kind of needing to hear. I want to hear them own their games. And I want them to tell me why they played a winning game. Because I don't think either of them really did.
I disagree.
That's not a negative. That's like a I think if either of them were against other people at the end, there would be a much different conversation happening right now.
I agree. I think there will be like
And
if
obviously that's how this works. Like the
Yeah.
final, it depends on who you're sitting with. Like I get it. This looks like an olive. I'm sorry.
And also what information is pertinent.
yeah, I agree with you in that sense. I think if B was against someone else, it would be a lot more open discussion about the thing. But I still think anyone from the final five onwards, B would have beaten. Obviously, B hasn't won yet. I think B would have beaten us three. I think B is probably going to beat Marvin. I think Ali probably had the next best chance to win against B. But
Oh yeah, B wouldn't have gone to the end if I was there. Let's be so serious.
I mean, if it was you and B at the end, I think it would be the closest.
I'm not
race,
risking that.
if
But that's just because people like her, and I'm a wild card. So I don't know how people feel about me from day to day.
again, fair. Well, I loved you this season. And Chris thought me and you were a bona fide final two from like final 9. I was like, nope.
I wrote in my prod chat something along the lines of like, I felt like at that final five, it was like a murder mystery coming into focus after I had my conversations with you two, and I was like certain you two had a final two.
We just discussed.
Sam wasn't going to the end with me. I told Sam he was, but he wasn't.
Oh no, you weren't going there with me either, love.
Yeah, we're both very smart, and we both knew we were both lying to each other. We both knew that the other one wasn't coming to the end with the other one.
And I knew I was at that point probably not reasonably in either of your plans.
Oh no, you were definitely in my plans. I was just going to beat you, so it was fine.
Yeah, Chris, you would have come to the end with me if I'd have won final 3.
I know that now.
It's okay. I don't hate you that much.
And
Only a little bit.
No, I would also just like to clarify that I don't hate you at all.
I know. I love you, Al.
I just wanted to clear the air.
Specifically, I was going to say, Al, you and Julia specifically, I can tell when you're being sarcastically hateful. It's fine.
No, because the thing is, some people can't, and then I have to like really just tone it down.
I appreciate
to a
you
level where
telling
I'm
me.
just like,
I do realize it. Love you.
I appreciate that.
Also, love you too, Sam.
Also, those hearts at every fucking tribal from like when I left, I was just like, they might mean it, but also, do they?
I
It
do
was just
mean
like,
it. I do
have
mean
fun
it.
on the
I
jury,
apologize
loser.
I apologize if that comes across as cheesy, but I was genuine about it.
Well, at this point, I think it's a good time to say thank you.
Oh,
all
you
for-
think?
Yeah, I do think. I sometimes
Well,
think
we're not being
thank
productive
you.
anymore.
Well, I was waiting for like a lull so I could like squeeze in without being interruptive. But thank you for being open with your thoughts and like open as in like saying everything you wanted to say, um, and being here and doing your thing as a juror. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Seb, you'll see me look like Father Christmas tomorrow with all my fur.
Yeah, I hope it's Santa Claus level.
He's gonna go fully gray too in the next 24 hours.
Can it just be like Robin Williams when they find him in Jumanji?
Or Castaway.
That's so specific.
Robin Williams
Hanks
was
is in-
not in Castaway.
Tom Hanks in Castaway. But I'm going to shave tomorrow, so I'll be looking pretty tomorrow.
All right. Just some things. First off, thank you, and Timmy and his fiance, which I'm not allowed to say his name on stream, I guess.
You could just phonetically say it.
Maynor.
That's
Thank
phonics.
you. It's spelling. It's close enough. I know it's not close enough. Don't tell me if it's not close enough.
It's like if you want the English pronunciation, it's Maynor.
Shout out to Timmy and Maynor for helping out with.
I've called him Maynor.
Yeah, shout out to them for helping with the round table.